Sometimes people think that if God answers our prayers, it'll make things nice and easy. But that's not true, you know. Let's take the story of the Adamson family. Noah and Barbara and their 4 children were a very kind and loving family, and they loved God. But they were the only people in the land who did. It was a dangerous land, full of fighting and stealing and violence. So God had mercy on the Adamson family. And God came down to warn them. And God said, Noah, Barbara, kids, there's going to be a huge flood. I want you to be safe. So can you make a huge, gigantic boat that is so big it'll take all the animals that I send to you? And do it quickly, because the flood's not far away. And so they did. But of course they were kind people, so they tried to warn everyone else too. But they were just laughed at. They said, "We don't believe in climate change." And so off they went. The work progressed well, and Barbara and Noah were very proud of the boat, very solid boat that they were building. But then, whilst they weren't looking, the children got hold of the design, and the next day, Barbara and Noah got a huge surprise. The ark was finished at last, but perhaps with more colour than they imagined in the first place. But it was just in time, because in the distance they could see all the animals that God was gathering, and they were going to march right up that ramp. So the rain poured down and the floods came up, and there was no dry land at all. And they were shut in. They were in lockdown, in an ark, in the boat, on the sea, with hundreds of animals for 207 days. And it was noisy. During the day, the elephants trumpeted, the cockatoos squawked, and at night, the nighttime animals woke up, and the owls hooted, and the possums growled, and the wolves howled. It was mayhem. The monkeys got bored and played tricks. And the dogs left little messages around the place. And Noah, well, he trod in that as well. In fact, things got so bad that they could only sleep up on top of the boat at night. It was just too noisy inside. And then at last, Barbara and Noah prayed to God, "Give us strength, please, give us strength to handle this lockdown." And God answered their prayer. But Barbara and Noah didn't think God had answered the prayer, because it was still noisy and they were still grumpy. Until at last one day the dry land appeared and the flood had finished, and they all began to come down onto the dry land. At last the lockdown was ended. But Noah and Barbara were still grumpy, and they cried out to God, "Why didn't you answer our prayer?" And God came down and said, "I did answer your prayer. I did give you the strength you needed, and here you are. But I never promised to make everything easy for you." They thought about that, and then they sat down with God and enjoyed the silence. The end.